All right, guys, welcome back to the BI breakdown. I have with me once again Jeremiah Do. Of course, we have a long-term relationship, and you guys know my correlation and my affiliation, if you would, when it comes to the cash compound. We're doing some great things, helping people become their own bank and telling them the truth, as Jay Do would say, and teaching people the truth about whole life insurance and what it really can do and how it can be implemented inside of your life to really change your life and help your family and yourself in the direction that you want to go. So, Jeremiah, I appreciate you being on. How things been over in your neck of the woods, if you would.
Hey, Robert, great to be back with you. I can't remember the last time I've been able to join you on the breakdown, so I'm glad to be here. I've been a busy man. We all are, but in the summer of 2024, when we're recording this, we just finished up Juneteenth. You know, I do a lot of stage work, speaker work, MC work, and I was speaking at a local corporate group today as well about the history of this country. And so I'm always busy helping people with money, helping people get the truth and get the facts right. That's what it's about.
Yeah, man, that's good. I wanted to dive straight into it. You know, why I got you on today, because like I said, this is what we talk about, this is what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So we're not going to be shy about it. I want to bring it to a high level and then kind of work down from it. What in your mind, what is the most simplistic way of a breakdown? If I'm saying, hey, break down privatized banking, infinite banking, whole life cash value insurance, right? It's going to get referred to in a number of different ways, but like from your perspective, how do you and I know we got the 3-cup setup, right? And it's actually right there behind you. I see it's on the, yeah. So it's like we use it all the time, but like verbally though, what is your simple way of breaking that down to somebody if you're talking to them in person or on the phone?
That's a great question. What privatized banking, infinite banking is all about is a culture of control with your money. That's what it is. It's being able to control the flow of the dollars that come into your life, that go in and that come out. And when we actually deposit our money into a government controlled system that's backed by the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, and traditional conventional banks, we give up that control. Most people don't realize that that is an option. You don't have to do that. You don't have to participate in what they've got going on. And a true person of sound money and Austrian economics would say that whole system is unethical. It's immoral for a government to be devaluing people's hard-earned dollars and what they do for work and the money supply. So what infinite banking is a specific way. Infinite banking concept, R. Nelson Nash, the founder of that, is a specific way to control your dollars. That's what's going on. That's what we teach.
Actually, that was. I mean, it's not like it's new information, but it's like, man, that's good. That was good. Because
hey, that's why we do so much content for people. We try to figure out what is a simpler way to break this down. What's a simpler way for people to understand this? What am I trying to get across? Because if you say a lot about insurance or whole life insurance or this is how you borrow from cash value, those type of words, that's actually those are actually processes of the problem. We're solving a problem here first, and we're going to use a specific type of product to do that. And Nelson Nash will say himself, you know, God rest his soul, you could use a couple different products for this process. You could use a CD, but you're still going to be participating in most cases with a traditional conventional banking platform. Privatized banking is private. Infinite banking is about control. And sound money is all of those things put together. So that's what we're doing. We're actually controlling our dollars. And you can do that a couple different ways. The best way just happens to be the life insurance systems that we talk about.
Yeah, and the reason why I said it was so good is because I had a verbal conversation. That's why I asked you to, like, whether you're in person or on the phone, right? Because it can be slightly different because you can use your hands. You could do, you know, I try to do like a 3-cup setup using the only flaw in it. I was at a family gathering. I used 3 of the same cups. So it was a little bit harder to to explain it. I didn't have my cups with me, right?
I've done it. Yeah.
So, but the whole point is, like, it's you have different advantages, you know, depending on how you talk to this individual. But what I noticed and started to understand is, like, just from how you broke it down on a very simple format, I completely went past I forgot about the and that's why I said, like, I mean, I got to get inside the office. We got to get we got to get back to the content for real, man, because like you forget about the ideology sometimes, especially once you start getting into it. Because for us, it's just like, oh man, I got my whole life policies. We're thinking strictly process at this point because it's almost automated. I take the loan, I do this, I do that. We're just thinking process, and sometimes it's easy to forget the philosophy, like what brought me here.
Yes.
Why did I get my first policy? And I noticed that like when you just broke that down, it just reminded me of the conversation I had not even a week ago. And it's like, dang, Rob, you didn't break down any philosophy to this guy at all. You didn't. You went straight to product. You went straight to the logic and the reasoning behind it, but you did not have the emotional appeal. And sometimes emotional appeal can get like a bad connotation, and to where it's like it's irrational, but it's actually can be very much rational. We get emotional about things that we care about, our kids, so on and so forth, right? We get emotional about those kind of things. And one thing that people definitely get emotional about is their money. So with that being said, is like that just opened up my eyes to say, to remind me, like when I have these conversations where I'm making content or whatever, you got to start there, and then you work your way to the product and in the process. So getting into the product and the process, you said you were talking about like insurances or whatever. Of course, like speak more into exactly what we're doing, like the process of it.
Yeah, so that we got the problem, right? We establish that in so many words. The problem is that we don't control our money or the flow of that money. And the government is normally involved with that, and Wall Street through banking, fractional banking, which is immoral, unethical to a sound money perspective economist. And that can be someone who's not doing it on a big level or writing books. It's just you and me level. And so now the product we're going to use to solve this process is going to be, in our world, whole life insurance of all crazy things from a mutual insurance company that pays dividends, or you can participate in. Some people might use that term. And then third is we're setting it up on purpose for cash. And that takes us to the process. So whole life insurance isn't just a thing that can sit on the shelf for us. We want it to be there when we die, no question. But it's actually a product that can be engineered or customized or have options on it, so we can get to money. We can control money of all crazy things. So most of us do not grow up thinking about life insurance being a tool to use money. We think of it being a tool for legacy, a tool for a family after we're gone. We'd have to be dead to use life insurance. Well, that's actually not true. So we're going to walk and talk people through how to solve this problem in their life, and all this interest and this crazy money that's leaving you that you don't control, someone else can lose in Wall Street. And we're going to set that system on its head. We're going to flip turn upside down, Will Smith would say, by using whole life insurance. So that's what we teach people. And when it knocked my socks off 10 years ago, man, we never look back. Like you said, it's an automatic understanding now. It's something where all my money is trying to get into but most people are not starting there. So that's what we help people understand and do.
Yeah, and then like to the last point that you made, like trying to get all my money there and so on and so forth. Like one thing I love that I've had the opportunity to be around you and Jonah, especially in person, is I can say like I started out with the book, right? Seeing that from like Brent and Chris Nagel's perspective, and I know you had a lot to do with that book, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. But with that being said, is like being around you guys made it made the implementation process more real. Like I'm like, these guys either really drunk the Kool-Aid or this thing is actually pretty good, right? So over time I was getting more policies, but the whole time I'm still thinking y'all crazy. I'm like, put all my money in here, take my full, like they really want to get to a point to where they take all their cash, put it here first, and then I'm like, no, these guys, because you got to think like I'm an investor. As soon as I get a check, I'm strategically monitoring my portfolio. How much of this do I have? How much of that do I have? So on and so forth. And it took me, I say like probably 2 years before I took a step back and said, oh, wait. This is this can be looked at as being a part of my portfolio, but it's not the investment. right? And so, better investments, and that's always how I see it: investment, investment, investment. And you'll hear people say it, and I agree to it to a certain extent, that everything's an investment, right? You invest your time, your energy, whatever. But I had to realize, like, this is not a financial instrument of investing.
Right.
And even if you treat it like an investment, you can make the policy a modified endowment contract. Like, literally, the government doesn't want you to treat it like an investment. And so we're not just out here telling people, hey, this is not an investment, it's not an investment. This should be used more of a banking tool, an in and out. You should use this to jumpstart the processes of other things, like making an investment or sending your kids to college, or whatever the case is. Some people think that we're just talking and saying this as a selling point, right? But
Right.
it's quite literally the rules of the land, if you would. Like, this is actually how it should be used. You should transfer your risk, which we're doing, and I always say we're taking small amounts of money and turning it into larger amounts of money, and then from there we're being able to leverage and collateralize that.
You got it exactly. This is the beginning and foundational part of wealth building, and that's making sure your money doesn't go away. A lot of people, if you want to get into investments, I highly suggest that. I think you should. You want to do that and your mind's bent toward it. Wonderful. Let's make sure you don't lose your money first. That's all it is. And people have to back up from that, because so many Wall Street and other financial tools that are out there are not the asset class of keep your money. They're the asset class of risk it or put it to work. And those are good. But first off, one thing that we've forgotten over the course of the last 100 years in this country, since the implementation of income tax, Wall Street being a part of people's regular portfolio, because they've got these, in the last 2 generations, they've got these 401ks and other market-driven
Everybody's an investor.
savings plans. Right. Let's make sure you keep your money first. And there are tools to keep your money before you risk it. So.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, like, that for me, like, that was a come to Jesus moment, as they would say. It was like, man, this is really eye opening. Like I said, being around you guys and hearing some of the stories of what you're doing, like, in person. That's one thing too. Like, you guys focus so much on education around it, which is good, because I know for a fact there's people that come across the content that you guys put out, and it's like they build up their knowledge, whether they come through us or not. They've built up their knowledge to know, like, oh, this is, in my opinion, if I was going to say, hey, like, I do it all the time. If I want to really have somebody understand something, I don't send them a video of necessarily myself. I send them a video of you guys. I'm like, yeah, you need to go right here. You need to watch this video right here. And when you watch this video, we'll talk more, and so on and so forth, because I know the content is taking it in as simple as it can and putting it in a very generic form, where it's not adding all these other complexities to it. So you'll see that a lot, especially with people in our space. And it's not a bad thing, talking about how it can be used and so on and so forth. But we don't understand. A lot of people get caught up on the product, and they don't understand the philosophy behind it, just like how you broke it down. And they also don't understand, like, they're trying to go from, okay, let's say they're trying to go from product to utilization. They forget why they ever did it. So, like, it was like, oh, I need to do this. I want to do a real estate deal, whatever the case is. I heard so and so on the internet talking about how this would be a good way to leverage, to jumpstart my business or whatever. And they have literally completely forgotten,
Right.
why is it that you want to be your own bank outside of, like, let's say you do that real estate deal. Now what? Do you no longer need the policy, or, like, what's the purpose of this beyond just that? And so you guys do a great job of breaking that down, which is bringing me to my next point of multiple policies, multiple purposes. What do you think is, because being your own bank is the end game, right? Us having as much financial control as possible. But what do you think, like, and let's say from your own personal experience, and I know some of the things you guys are doing with your policies, but what do you think is, like, your strategy, as far as, like, why do you have multiple policies? And then what are some of the purposes that you have for each individual policy, or do they all serve like a similar or the same purpose?
Great
I know
question.
that's a loaded question, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first off, I do have multiple policies. I talk about that all the time. And I'm nearing 10 policies for the use of banking tools. So I save my money in this environment so I can have control. Remember, that's what it's really about. It's about control. It's about privacy. It's about leverage. It's about guarantees. All of those things are why I do this. And the reason I have multiple policies, one reason is pretty simple, is when you start whole life insurance policies, premiums do not rise. They do not change. Now, we talk all the time about how people can maximize these policies because there is flexibility to put in some extra premiums. We like that. That's a big part of what we do. However, it doesn't hold all your money. So when I first start a policy for X number of dollars, it doesn't hold 10 times that number tomorrow. Premiums in life insurance are level. The cost of insurance is fixed. So I have to put more money in by adding more policies, not by making a policy bigger. There is a limit to that. And the reason there's a limit is actually because the government stepped in and realized, wait, we don't control this.
Yeah.
So they limited the power of the personal control and the growth of an individual doing a deal with a mutual life insurance company. They limited that power in the mid 1980s. So I have multiple policies for that reason, and this is how I use them. When I have my dollars stored inside these banks, these private vaults, I can use them at will for whatever. So it's not too much different than having a checking account and a savings account. You let the missus use the Amazon for the checking, right? She's got a little card. She's swiping that one. But the savings account is for something else. You save up for Christmas or some other holiday or big event in the savings account. That's what we're doing here. So when I have multiple policies and multiple people in my family for multiple reasons that I told you about, I can't shove all my money in one policy. It's because one policy is going to be used for investments, like you said, my real estate or private money deals. The next policy, I say, you know what? It might be easier if I just take this account and pay attention to taxes. I'll pay my taxes with this one. This next one, this is about family vacay, right? We're only going to do that once, twice a year, hopefully 10 times one day. But since I have a third policy, why don't I focus on this one for having another use? And it just helps me separate my daily functions and activities of living. So that's what I do. It's not that you can't mix and match them, but when you're your own banker, sometimes it gets a little confusing if you don't earmark them for certain things. You know, oh, this policy is what I normally will save up for and use for vehicle purchases, for car buying or something. So that's why I use multiple policies.
Yeah, I think that was that's interesting. I know with my policies, I have multiple purposes as well. And then too, I try to have a policy that I don't use at all. So like now that I have multiple policies, now it's like I'm not even going to use this one at all.
Okay.
That's like a rainy day fund or something like that.
Sure. And so that's why you're using it. So you're not going to use it actively. But if you think of it in being, Joan and I were dealing with someone who's local, who we've been helping for a couple of years. And similar to like yourself, we help them understand. And this is a couple. This is a grown couple. They're grandparents at this point. They're sandwich generation for everybody who's taking care of a mother-in-law. They're doing all of those things. And they run a business. And they have 3 policies. And just like you were saying, we help them think through the fact that he wanted to use the policy for X. She wanted to use it for Y. They're trying to put a mother-in-law suite, literally for mother-in-law, on top of the garage. But they also needed to think about their emergency fund. I said, why don't you use the first policy that you built, the one with the most cash into it? It's pretty, it has a larger premium and more cash value than the other. Why don't you use that one as your emergency? You guys have a business. You got to cash flow that business. Why don't you think of that one for your emergencies? And then the next one can be for your opportunities, the one on you, the missus. And they're like, boom, it was a whole bunch of clarity for them. Oh, that's going to make the missus feel comfortable because they no longer kept their money in savings. And she was like, hey, the mister is about to use this for all sorts of things. He might lose it. And I said, well, hey, why don't you guys come to an agreement that branch number 1, well, it's not a branch. It's the vault number 1, and everything else is a branch. Vault number 1 is for your savings, the one you don't use, like you mentioned. That's for your emergency. And the next one you can let him use for opportunities. She was like, oh, man, that's going to clear it up.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a game changer, especially when you get multiple policies, because it's not until you, in my opinion, it's not until you get multiple policies that you truly are exercising the process, or trying to maximize the process, should I say. Anything before that, you're just kind of getting your feet wet. Like you're kind of you're still inside the getting started phase. Like I realized that once I realized, okay, I only have one policy and I'm not doing none of what these guys are talking about doing. And I was looking at my illustration. I'm like, okay, I need to pump a bunch of extra money in here and whatever the case is. I'm like, even if I maxed out this policy as much as possible, it's still not going to serve the purposes of what these guys are saying that they're doing with their policies. And so, with that being said, I was like, man, I need to get some more policies. One big thing for me is like retirement. Knowing some of the, like Jonah shared with me some of the things you can do with whole life insurance, just period. Like not even speaking to how we specialize or modify the policy, if you would, for cash and to do them, have the banking features that we're talking about. He was just talking about what whole life insurance, like the truth behind whole life insurance in itself. The only truth that the general public has is it's expensive. It's more expensive than other types of insurance. But I learned the phrase of, you get what you pay for. All right. And that's something that a lot of people have heard. Well, think about it. It's just like anything else. If you buy quality clothes, quality shoes, quality this, they tend to last longer. They have a longer shelf life, so on and so forth. And it's no different with whole life insurance. And not only is it going to last your whole entire life, it's like owning a house versus renting one. And with that being said, is like, I'm starting to look into like retirement options. Like he was telling me some of the different retirement features that you could utilize. Like, once again, these are not actually meant to do what we're doing with them, right? Like a regular whole life policy is simply to transfer a risk and protecting you against the loss of life. That's what it's about. And it's meant to last the whole entire life, level premium, so on and so forth, right? Those are just features, and that's the purpose of it. How we're manipulating it, if you would, is for other purposes. And one of those purposes for me was like, how can I don't have 401ks, I don't have IRA, Roth account, any of that stuff, because I'm a self-directed investor. And I've had people, well, why don't you get a self-directed IRA? It still doesn't make it doesn't make sense. It's still another level on top of myself of control, where they have control, but I don't have control. Right. So I do all of my stuff, directly. Dealing with, with Webull, different apps, whether it's cryptocurrency, whatever the case is. Everything I do is self-custody. I don't have a third-party intermediary. So with that being said, of course, outside of the broker, but with that being said, I still wanted to have something that was more foundational. And so I started to add more policies, because I started to look at it like, okay, if I get more policies, these could be used for like more retirement. Like my first policies, I was thinking, okay, these could be used more for retirement. I got more policies and switched up my split, which we won't go too much into, but switched up some of my splits because I wanted to have more base, more death benefit, especially with having a kid. And I wanted to try to like max out my insurability, and also to like do some more investing and be able to afford some greater expenses down the road. So that's interesting. Now, you said you have about 10 policies, right?
Yeah, I do now, between the ones all across the family. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to catch you. I do want you to know I'm chasing ghosts. All right.
Hey, well, you have to have more kids for that. So I have 4 kids, so that's part of the reason. When I first learned about this concept, I was low 30s, married with 2 kids, and a couple years into it, I've got 4 children. So that's another reason my policies have expanded. My vaults, my compound, if you will, has expanded to branches of my bank, because I have more people to insure. Remember, this is life insurance, just like that you said. So I love how you reminded all of us, life insurance is a transfer of risk. Someone else now is on the hook for the loss of life in this case, or the loss of your car, the loss of your home, and insurance. That's what it is. There's just life insurance has flexibility and provisions where you can get the money. So as new people come into your family, hey, Be fruitful and multiply. We're going to start banks on everybody.
Yeah, and Jason Lowe, he has he's definitely taking it what you said very serious. I was at the gym with Nick, Nick Dennis. I was at the gym with him, and he was asking me, like as far as like with me having just having my baby or whatever. He's like, well, how much money would you tell somebody that they need to have before they start trying to have kids? I said, man, you need to have life insurance. Like that, the idea that you're going to save enough money prior to, now if your career takes off, NBA, NFL, or you hit the lottery or something outside of the outliers, right? The obvious outliers, everyday working American, the idea that you will have a stash of cash that's just right and it's going to save you from all the headaches or whatever of having a child is absolutely crazy. And I lie to you not, what made me, because I was going to wait to have kids, what made me want to have kids though is like having life insurance. Like I was like, if today or tomorrow something happens, right? I mean, with my girl being taken care of, that's one thing. But now she just got a reason to beat me over the head. Like she might be the one to take me out, so I'm thinking like, man, but in all seriousness, so like I started to think like legacy wise, what's the purpose of, it's, of course I wanted to leave a legacy. I wanted to have kids and so on and so forth. But the reason why I sped it up for me in real time is because as I was getting more policies, I realized like, man, I'm actually in a position right now where God forbid something happens, I'm leaving my kid in a much better position than the life that I ever got to witness and enjoy growing up in my childhood. So like, that's why I was telling them, like, man, you can go, let's say you save up $100,000. Well, if you tragically meet your end within the toddler stage or newborn stage or something, you got to now multiply that out to the end of high school, starting college or whatever. If you had to leave your significant other behind to bear the expense of that child, $100,000 is not any amount of money at all over a 25 year stretch, especially with inflation and everything else, as we know. It's just not going to be the same. And what they need today is not what they're going to need in the future. The expenses get bigger, things change. So like that's really interesting to speaking with to some of the things you were saying. I wanted to know too, when the getting started, right? So we always talk about it. We tell people how to get started, but we don't emphasize it, right? People that's getting started, where do you start? How do I get started?
Yes, where do you start? Well, first, what I like to walk and talk people through. So, we do these, we treat people to a cash consultation. It's a free call, and we do strategy with people. We answer their questions. Do they understand what the problem is? Do they understand why this product is going to solve this problem? And then we'll help them through the process. So we continue to help people use their policies for infinite banking to recapture their wealth from leaving them for the rest of their life. We're going to be able to help them do that. Get out of debt, buy cars, go through educational options for their kids. All of those things are going to happen. When people get started, it's a great question. They get stumped. So what do I do? How do I pick premium? Well, number one, most people are thinking about life insurance in terms of what it leaves to their family. So they're thinking about the death benefit number. And that's fine. But that is actually backward to building a banking system. A banking system loves deposits, and we're going to put money in. So we need to come up with what's the premiums that you'd like to be contractually able to give an insurance company what it buys you more money. It buys you 10-fold, 50-fold more money and grows for the rest of your life. How much of your money would you like to put in that? So one very simple way and a little exercise I walk people through in 1 minute on each phone call if necessary is, hey, if you can place your dollar, how many of your dollars last year went into the bank? How much of the pool of money that your boss gave you every other Friday went into a conventional, traditional, someone else's bank? And what do you think most people say?
100%.
100%, near 100%, all of it. Oh, they put all the money in. Okay, great. Okay, did that banking system, was it controlled by you? Did it provide you death benefit, guarantees of growth, leverageable capability? No, it didn't. It provided you a debit card. That's all it gave you. That's one expensive debit card. All your money went in there, and that's all they gave you. So they're like, what? Yeah, interesting. And I said, yeah, well, that's what we're talking about. You can store your money inside an environment that gives you all of those benefits, all those features. It's just not a regular conventional bank. So if you could have death benefit, growth, guarantees, leverage, privacy, would you store your money there? Like, yeah, sounds great. Well, how much of your money do you want there? Like, oh, well, a lot of it. And I go, there you go. So let's remember what this place to stash our cash is going to be and what's it going to do. Let's remember that. And let me ask you this question. You've got lots of bills to pay today. We know you have a growing family. You've got a new baby. You've got a family. I say, well, you have bills you have to pay right away today, every day, right? Oh, yeah, we got bills. Now I'm learning what a family life is like. Brand new to being a dad. I love that. And my question might be to that person, well, how much of the money that you make doesn't have to leave the house tomorrow? How much of it? 5%, 10%, 15%? Lots of people are right up to the brim. Their expenses have risen to their level of income. But if there's a gap, if you're making 100 grand and you need to spend 90 to stay alive, where does that other 10 go? I go, oh, well, maybe it should go into an environment which is going to have all this growth, guarantees, leverage, and all that stuff. So maybe if you make 100 and you've got $90,000 of expenses, maybe $10,000 is your premium. That's where you'd save the dollars, and it starts to help them. So it's a quick exercise that helps people. How do you get started? What do you put in? Well, let's figure out what you can save. We call our system the save and spend system. The first word is save. So how much can you save? How much are you going to keep?
Yeah, interestingly enough, the reason why I asked you that is because I knew you would kind of take that's the right approach. What most people do is they want to, like, how do I get on the phone with Jay Do? I saw Jay Do on this video or whatever. I've had people they get on the round robin, as you would call it, and they'll be like, but you're not Jay Do though, right? You don't sound like him. You're not him from the video. And I'm like, dude, for one, Jay Do might not even be Jay Do today. He might be Malcolm X.
There you go, right? I might be Jeremiah any given day. So maybe I ain't even me. There you go.
Exactly. Like, and so it's like, that, but beyond that is they're which is good. They're excited. They want to know more and they want to get started. But then when you actually break it down to, like, here's how you get started. It's like, oh, wow, I actually have to think of a number. I actually have to think about, what do I want to deposit into my policy? I have to start putting some pen to some paper, or actually using my mind to think this through, rather than just being excited about the opportunity of being able to do something like this. I have to actually think about, how do I get started? Because me getting started and you getting started and somebody else getting started is completely different. And another thing I would do is I always try to take away the idea of people like, I have to have all this money to do it. You have to save money. And if you don't save money, you have to reallocate how you spend money. So one thing I know for myself, I started reallocating how I spent money. That's how I was able to get more policies. It's just changing the direction or the flow of the money, right? So I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, this direction doesn't make sense. Why don't I do this? Right? Why don't I complete the circle? I gave a good analogy when I was talking with Chris Noggle, that our banking system is just nothing but no different than your primary residence. Your money leaves the home. It goes a lot of different places. Like, you leave your home, you go a lot of different places. You travel other places, you want to go on vacation, whatever. But you always come back to that primary residence, right? And that's nothing more than just what's happening with our dollars here when we're talking about the banking concept. And I try to get people to understand too, is like, if you're paying, X amount of dollars per credit card, let's, simple math, 5 credit cards, $100 a month. That's $500, right?
Right.
That's the minimum payment. You're never going to actually pay them off. You don't have nothing to lose. I literally did this with a guy. He's and I have to get him on for a client chronicle. It really has been fulfilling to know what we've been able to do to help people. Like, now I know this works for not only myself, but it works for other people, because I think he said him and his wife have about $3,500 in debt every single month that they're paying on. And he's now paid off 3 credit cards and paying off a 4th credit card using his policy. The guy got on the phone with me. I have $0 to put in here. And after the conversation I had with him, I think I remember I was telling you about this. I was like, man, I never thought about it this way. I was always thinking, like, you got to come in with some money, this and third. And it didn't hit me until after a year of talking to people. All these people have money. Like, they have money because they wouldn't have debt if they didn't have some income or something going on, right? Like, the bank knows you got money. That's why they keep offering you these credit cards. They know you can pay something, right? Even if you can't get it down, they've made up money in interest. So it's like, I just restructured how he thought about it. He started a policy, $500 a month, and this dude is now paid off three going on four credit cards. And how much now he's like, what do I do with the money that I've saved on these credit cards? I was like, man, you're your own bank. What would you do at a regular bank? So now he's building a cash position, and he's actually becoming wealthier while getting out of debt. Like, that's crazy. Like, it's like you were drowning, now you're back above water and you got a boat.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. So it's like, it's really been amazing though to see what we've been able to do and help people. And that's why I wanted to know, like, I just wanted you to speak on like how to get started. I wanted to add that in there too, is like, a lot of people, if you sit down and think about it and really look at what you're doing with your finances, you'll realize this is for everybody. Because there's a misconception here where, yes, there's a target audience, right? There's individuals who understand it. They might have not started out fully understanding, but they got the general concepts of money down or whatever the case is. But you don't have to be a financial genius. You don't have to be a financial advisor, or you don't need an accountant to help you make this decision, right? This could be something that you make between yourself. See, yourself and God, yourself and your spouse, right? This is not something that requires expertise. It requires the right mindset and a change in how you think about your money. And I mean, literally anybody could do this. So I wanted to drive that point home on what you were saying. But you got anything else to add to it, man?
Man, well, appreciate your growth. And like you said, it's a mindset shift for me, for you, and for the people that we coach and talk to. When we're educating, it's all about rethinking your thinking. That's what Nelson Nash would have said. He talked about that being one of his books, one of his points. And he said right before he passed away, he'd add a fifth kind of principle or rule, and that would be rethink your thinking. And it's going to take a mindset shift for most people. And the reason is they don't even understand the problem. The problem got masked so well utilizing Wall Street and third-party banks, they don't realize they don't have any control over their cash, and all of their interest and payments are going off to third parties. So they've got to rethink their thinking about the problem, the product, and the process of controlling and being their own banker. Being your own banker means you're going to be in charge. So you're going to make some decisions you're probably not used to making, and the third parties were always doing it. So I appreciate seeing your growth again. I know you're busy as ever, being dad out there, playing dad, working from home, all those things, changing diapers.
Sleeping,
not sleeping. But
the sleep is out the window. That's not even a question.
We love to help people understand this here with our Cash Compound family. So that's what we're doing. We're right on track. Appreciate you, Robert.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Jay, I appreciate you being on, guys. We're going to have the links in the description as always. It's always going to be thecashcompound.com. And to speak to myself, that's going to just be /bank with Robert. But of course, like I said, links are always going to be in descriptions. Jeremiah, do one of the two banking bros at the Cash Compound. And thanks so much on you guys, your end of things for engrossing me inside this opportunity and letting me grow with you as well. So I appreciate you being on. Better investments equals a better future. We'll see you guys inside the next video.
I can change everything. Feel like I can change everything. I'm planning on changing the game. Sometimes I feel like I